Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:07 on the mighty WMAL. It's O'Connor and Company, your morning program of choice. Thanks for joining us on this very busy Thursday morning as we try to get a handle on all things domestic and international, not to mention local, right in our backyard. That's what we do here. Coming up in 30 minutes, our backyard is literally Montgomery County, Maryland. Bethany Mandel, friend of the program, is on the winning end of a settlement with the Montgomery County school system. We'll tell you why. At 8:05, Katie McFarland is going to join us, tell us about Trump's trip to NATO and the latest in the Middle East. And then at 8:35, Miranda Devine, New York Post, with a exclusive on how ICE, while they're getting maligned by Democrats and senators are staging, street theater to get arrested by ICE agents, they are quietly rescuing thousands of children who were exploited and lost in the system thanks to Joe Biden. We're going to give you those details coming up at 8:35. That's a great story. Larry O'Connor here. Julie Gunlock is with us this morning. Look at you, Julie, on a Thursday. Are you okay?
Good morning.
It's a long week for you, 4 whole days.
I don't know how you do it on that 5th day, Larry.
You know what? Thankfully, I have Patrice to do most of the work, as you know.
Of course, yes.
Joining us right now. Friend of the program, personal friend of the program, but also his organization, Media Research Center, is a major friend of the program and anyone who cares about honesty and truth. He is Dan Schneider, and he is closely monitoring the rescission package with OMB Director Russ Vogt and how every Republican is going to come down on this thing to finally defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Dan Schneider, good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Larry, Julie, good to be with you. And you're right. There's not going to be a single Democrat who's going to vote for this. So you can kiss them goodbye. It's counting the noses of the Republicans. That's where the battle really is.
Well, and the good news is we don't need the Democrats. Because this is a rescission package, all you need is a simple majority. We've got a 3-seat majority in the Senate right now, and I think like a 6 or 7-seat majority now in the House. This has passed the House, and now it's in the Senate's hands. But I guess the simple question for you, Dan Schneider, is why in the hell would a Republican not vote to defund NPR? John Kennedy, the senator from Louisiana, put it perfectly yesterday. Why are we even debating this?
Yeah, well, Kennedy pointed out some of the absurdities that are being lodged against Russ Vogt and President Trump on this. And I just got to tell you, watching Russ vote yesterday, he was a champ. I was reminded of these great football teams with Tom Brady, the flashy quarterback, but Tom doesn't win without a key player who just grinds it out, leading the team from in subtle ways. That was Russ, just doing an amazing job yesterday, and with no home field advantage. You've got Susan Collins, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee, who is a solid no on this bill, and then the second most senior Republican on that is Lisa Murkowski, who's also a solid no. And then the third most senior person is Mitch McConnell, who was clearly suggesting that his vote's going to be very difficult to get because of all the foreign aid stuff in this thing. So Russ was brilliant, and you also have to understand, when you've got a job like his, OMB director, he and his team, they're lucky if they sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night. They are working so hard and doing brilliant work.
So, let's go through those senators that you just named, because they can lose 3, and then it would be Vice President Vance delivering the tiebreaker vote. So you're counting the heads. And I just want to pause again. We cannot understate. No, wait, let me reverse that. We cannot overstate the job that Media Research Center has been doing, not just in the last month or so, to finally bring home the defunding process for National Public Radio. This has literally been a decades-long mission for Media Research Center. When in the mid-'90s, when Newt Gingrich led the House in their first effort to defund NPR, Media Research Center was already 10 years old, my friends. And they were already doing all of the legwork to give them all of the reasons and all of the details and all of the data and all of the reports to show them why NPR and PBS are absolute disasters and do not deserve tax dollars. So first, Dan, and your team at MRC, I want to congratulate you on even getting us this far. Now, bring us to today. You're counting heads, you're counting votes. Where does it stand if the vote were held today?
I think it passes. There were a couple tricky people that we've been watching closely, but I was, listening to the hearing yesterday. I was there, and Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, Deb Fisher of Nebraska, they had previously expressed concerns about, farmers and Indian tribes needing to have NPR so they know the weather and, things like this. But I heard capitulation in their voices. They expressed their concerns that the emergency alert system may go away, but they both asked Russ, will you pledge to work with me in the future to address these questions? That sounds like capitulation. That sounds like they're going to vote for it, and then they need language to tell their constituents, don't worry, I'm going to fight for you in other ways. And by the way,
beautiful.
Every broadcaster, including this one, by law is required to carry the emergency alert system. There's nothing unique about NPR and PBS. And the one thing NPR does have, there's a grant from FEMA that funds it. It has nothing to do with this rescission bill. This NPR is out there crying in the wilderness that everything's going to come to an end. Nothing is going to come to an end. Everything is going to continue, except the fact that taxpayers are no longer going to be forced to pay for NPR.
I'd love for you to address some of the myths, and these myths about these cuts. These myths were carried and really promoted by Susan Collins. She opened the hearing by talking about how she opposes it because she opposes cuts to PEPFAR and the elimination of funding to NPR and PBS. And I know you've already addressed those, but on PEPFAR, this idea that everything, Russ Vogt kind of said there's still $10 billion. Can you explain to me, I know Susan Collins, there's always sympathy for Susan Collins because she's from, Maine, and she's trying to, she's sort of got to please both camps. But what in the world is the reason for her holding out on this and actually opening a hearing declaring, I'm done, I'm not going to vote for this?
Yeah. I remember back in the House when they were debating it on the floor, Congressman Jody Arrington is the one who actually came up with the statistics. The amount of cuts to PEPFAR and some of these other foreign aid programs are tiny. The great bulk of spending continues. And Democrats on the floor yesterday were saying, oh my goodness, people are going to die if we have these cuts. And Russ was just again persisting and saying, no, the great bulk of spending is still there. All these programs that do really help address people's needs are there. What we're doing is cutting, the Sesame Street gay time in Iran and all of these absurd things, Queer Hour in Ecuador. Those are the things that we're going to be cutting with this bill.
Don't forget the Madagascar circumcisions. That's always my favorite one, Dan.
Very important. But I'll just tell you, all the Democrats and some of the Republicans, what they were really crying about, and truly, Kirsten Gillibrand of New York literally was about to cry when she was saying, "You are killing the bipartisanship of this committee. We carefully crafted these approach bills in a bipartisan way. We made a deal, and you're killing all of that." And Russ Vogt simply said, "This is the law, the Impoundment Control Act. We are complying with the law, and you now get to vote on this." And there was complete silence in the room for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then Kirsten Gillibrand suddenly shrieked out, "That's an absurdity!" They hate democracy so much. The Democrats have gamed the whole appropriations process for so many years. It hasn't been since, 2007, since an appropriations bill, an actual standalone appropriations bill, was signed by a president, and they're decrying the destruction of the appropriations process.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. They're fine with the destruction of the appropriations process when it means omnibus packages and continuing resolutions and yada yada yada. But the second
increased spending forever.
Right, but an administration uses legal means to say, you know what, we don't need to spend all this money. Hey, you guys, reassess this, please. And it's destroying our entire constitutional process. It's a beautiful thing. Dan Schneider, thank you so much. Again, Media Research Center, you guys have done a great job. Let's keep the president. Vice President Vance, he's got 3 young children. He's a very busy man. He's all over the place. I would like for him to not have to drive down to Capitol Hill and cast that tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So who should we just put turn the screws just in the final minutes here to make sure that the emails are sent so that they know where the people stand? Who do you think they should be sending those emails to?
Well, look, you can go to our website, mrc.org.
Oh, there you go.
And you can actually get you can find there the defundpbsnpr.org link where you can contact your member of Congress. And by the way,
Perfect.
Larry, you can also find our cruise information to join us in Norway.
Oh, yeah, the MRC cruise. That's coming up. Very excited about that. Me, Joe Concha, Dana Lash, Sam, and Kevin Sorbo. I always lead with Sam because she's the fairer of the Sorbos. Going to be fun. Meredith and I will have a blast, and y'all can get a WMAL discount. Go there to MRC Cruise. Well done, Dan Schneider, getting a plug in. Thanks, man. Great talking with you.
Hey, thank you, Julie.
It's
Larry.
7:17.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
I'll serve the community all right. So, Julie Gunlock. You're Julie, right? Hi, Julie.
That's right.
Good to see you. Let's just paint a picture here of the trajectory of Donald Trump's relationship with NATO. He ran for office 10 years ago, saying that NATO governments aren't paying their fair share, and they're promised 2.5% of their GDP to military funding. That way, they can use their tax dollars for all the freebies they give their citizens, right? And they don't have to defend their own borders because America will do that for them. And Trump said that's ridiculous. We're getting a raw deal. We're paying for all of them to do all this stuff. And as you often point out, and to boot, they then lecture us on what we should be doing with our policies. So Trump comes in, he says, let's make all these countries pay their fair share. And everyone on the left in town, John Kerry, Joe Biden, Bill Kristol, and all of the never-Trumpers, Stephen Hayes, Jonah Goldberg, this is outrageous. You're undermining NATO. You're going to ruin NATO. It's like, imagine that. Making NATO actually the countries, stand up and do what they promised they would do for the last 70 years. Actually expecting them to adhere to their promises would ruin NATO. If having to, adhere to your promise and actually, do what you claim you were going to do for the last 70 years ruins NATO, then maybe NATO doesn't deserve to exist anymore.
Maybe it's already ruined.
Right. That said, we now go on a 10-year arc to today where NATO just approved doubling the commitment of those countries to 5% of their GDP to national defense, which, again, these countries are going to spend money for their own defense, for their own military, and if they get attacked, all the NATO countries will work together to have that country that's been attacked back. That's what NATO was all about. That's what
right.
it is. NATO is not America will do Europe's bidding. NATO is the countries all protect each other and have each other's back if they get attacked. All right. So they've gone so far, the Trump narrative on NATO. Not only did they just vote to double their commitment, but listen to how the Secretary General, of NATO referred to Donald Trump yesterday. Cut 17.
I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. They fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
Wait, hold on. Listen to that again. This is the Secretary General of NATO referring to Trump as what now?
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
Daddy. They not only have done what Trump suggested they do at NATO, they not only have made the coalition and alliance stronger, by the way, and protected Europe even more than before Trump became president, but now the Secretary General is referring to Donald Trump as Daddy.
Well, and he did it in the context of a fight on the playground, two immature entities fighting it out, and then Daddy needs to step in. He literally did it in this context of like these little European countries are fighting, and then the United States says, and Trump has to set them straight. It was quite a moment.
Like Daddy. He's Daddy. And by the way, Marco Rubio lost it when this came up later.
Well,
he just
loved
busted up laughing.
But it was also funny. Everyone was focused on Marco Rubio, but Trump loved it too. You could tell.
Of course he did.
He was grinning.
What a narrative. What a journey
I
this been.
know.
Speaking of journeys, Air Force One lands last night at Andrews, and the Trump social media account, or the White House social media account, posted a video of Air Force One landing from NATO, and listen to the music they played underneath it.
Oh my gosh.
Daddy's home.
That is the first time I've heard that. And I was joking when I said Daddy's home. And that's actually what they played.
That's exactly what they played at the White House. Oh, what a time to be alive. It's 7:24.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Bethany Mandel on the legal victory in Montgomery County. Keep it here.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:37 here on a busy Thursday morning in your nation's capital. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry O'Connor, that's me, and Julie Gunlock, that's that lady over there. Hey, Julie, good morning.
Good morning.
Coming up at 8:05, KT McFarland will join us latest on NATO and the Middle East. And at 8:35, Miranda Devine, again on this exclusive she's got at the New York Post, about how ICE has already rescued thousands of children lost in the system who had crossed our border illegally and then got, disappeared by the Biden administration. That's coming up. Joining us right now, though, Bethany Mandel, friend of the program. Julie, we often say this is a friend of the program. Well, a friend of the program means somebody that we have on the air. Sometimes they co-host with us. Sometimes they're fill-ins. And they have something in common. They're good. They're smart. They're funny. They're warriors. And in many respects, they're winners. And Bethany Mandel, bona fide winner today, along with Matt Foldy. Bethany and Matt Foldy, friend of the program, were both the plaintiffs in a lawsuit against the Montgomery County public school system. And congratulations, Bethany, on winning a settlement along with your friends at America First Legal. Well done, you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us. I wish it didn't get to this point. So what happened was two things, actually. The first was that during the debate over the LGBT books that were forced upon religious parents and all parents in Montgomery County, I just want to jump in.
I want to remind everybody the LGBT books were put into the school system against your wishes, and you were not allowed to opt out. Not one parent was allowed to say, "Do not include my children in this." It was unprecedented. Okay, go ahead, Bethany.
The Supreme Court is hearing the case. We could hear the results today, which would be crazy. It would be a real 1-2 punch to Montgomery County Public Schools. But so they knew my viewpoint. They knew Matt Foldy's viewpoint, and they locked us out of the school board meeting that was there to discuss this decision. So that was number one. Number two sounds kind of silly, but MCPS they nuked it. They had a Twitter account, MCPS Pride, where they talked about everything that they were doing. And I, as a journalist, followed it because it was very helpful information to keep tabs on. And they knew that, and they blocked me. And so that was a violation of my First Amendment right. It was viewpoint discrimination. And so for America's First Legal approached Matt and I and said, we think we have a case. And we're like, yeah, we do too. We didn't even know where to start. So thank you for coming to us. And, America's First Legal, I have to put a huge plug out there, did incredible work and pushed MCPS every step of the way. I'm not a litigious person, although now that I have the settlement, maybe I'll become one. But
Hey, that's a good side gig right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. But maybe I could sue everyone that blocks me on Twitter. I would be a millionaire. Anyway, I digress.
Just to be fair, Bethany, a lot of people block you not because of First Amendment reasons. It's just because you're kind of a pain in the butt.
They don't like me. It's fair. But you can't block me as a public official.
But Bethany, we're seeing this kind of stuff, especially in Loudoun County, where they turn the mics off, where they turn the cameras off, and Fairfax as well. This is enormously impactful for all of these sort of rogue and very political and activist school boards that do this kind of. Do you think this will have a chilling effect on these school boards who are activists?
I do. I mean, I'm happy to with America's First Legal, just go around to all these different school board meetings and then start lawsuits, or they'll find other plaintiffs that are local in those places. Again, I'm litigious.
I love that this is your new hobby.
This is how I'm going to pay for summer camp. This is how I paid for summer camp this year. But
well, with your gaggle of Mandel children, you're going to have to do that.
Is expensive.
Real fast. Did they have to admit? Did Montgomery County Public Schools have to admit their wrongdoing, or is this just sort of a here's your money, go away kind of thing?
I mean, the fact that they gave us a 6-figure settlement, I feel like speaks for itself. And it sends a message to all of these school board members, because their insurance company, by the way, is now knocking on their door saying, like, we don't want to keep having to do this, and we would like you to behave in a professional manner so that we can avoid these lawsuits in the future. And I think that other school boards, especially the local ones who, are clued into what happens here, are saying, ooh, we don't want Matt Foldy and Bethany Mandel coming to our meetings. And, hopefully behaving appropriately. Or, again, I'll be there with America's First Legal.
Yeah. And let's just be clear. They don't want Bethany Mandel and Matt Foldy to come to their meetings. They're, by the way, both tax-paying residents of Montgomery County, number one.
Right.
But number two, journalists. Yes, a journalist with an opinion, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're not journalists in good standing. And this is the pro-democracy crowd. This is the pro-freedom of the press crowd. And it seems to me, Bethany Mandel, that when a government entity has to exclude people who disagree with their opinions from being able to listen to a public meeting or participate in a public meeting, it tells me that even they know their position is wrong, and it can't stand up to 100%. Scrutiny.
I mean, they're about to find that out of the Supreme Court. They're gonna get their what's handed to them in a very short order from the Supreme Court. So that's absolutely true. No, but I mean, I didn't understand then, and I don't understand now, the Democracy Dies in Darkness crowd. Where are they? Because they should be cheering this decision. They're rah-rah First Amendment. I would love to see the Washington Post coverage of this decision. It's a local story, Democracy Dies in Darkness. I would like to see their local coverage of America First legal victory for us.
Forgive me, but I just saw Jake Tapper yesterday talk about how it's a reporter's job to ask questions and challenge things. I'm sure he's booking you on the show this afternoon to talk about this, yes?
So I haven't gotten that call, but, today's young. It's only 7:30. You never know.
He probably has you blocked on Twitter. All right, we'll leave it there. Congratulations. So proud of you. And I understand you're going to be co-hosting a couple of days coming up this month.
I'm so excited.
Excellent. We will see you on the air then. Bethany Mandel, back in the fold. Thank you, Bethany. Good talking with you.
Thank you.
It is 7:43. Let's give you an update on the mayor's race in New York. We're now a day after 2 days after the primary now. And I told you yesterday, watch how establishment Democrats react to this and how they shift. I don't think we've heard from Chuck Schumer yet, have we? Most prominent New York Democrat.
I think he congratulated him on Twitter. I'm not sure about that.
All right, we'll take a look at that. But the question is, will the establishment sort of coalesce around the party's selection in New York? And let me remind you who Mr. Ramdani is. Mr. Ramdani, over the course of his political career, short as it may be, has called to abolish the NYPD, abolish prisons, abolish medical bills, abolish private health insurance, ban all guns everywhere. While he's abolishing everything and banning things, he wants to legalize prostitution. Or as he calls it, sex work. He wants to legalize that. He wants safe injection sites for people who are hooked on drugs. He wants to end all cash bail. He wants to decriminalize drug possession, all drugs, heroin, fentanyl, no problem. End sentencing enhancements and end all cooperation with ICE. At his victory speech the other night, cut 11, he pledged to, as mayor of New York, go to war with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford. A city where they can do more than just struggle. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism.
There you go. There you go. Mayor of New York is going to go. Sure, absolutely. That's what you hire a mayor to do. Forget about the potholes or any of the other things. All right. So Bill Clinton now is probably the leading establishment Democrat. He had endorsed Andrew Cuomo. So the question is, okay, will the establishment stay with Cuomo? Because Cuomo's on the ballot in November. Bill Clinton yesterday, congratulations, Zohran Mamdani, on your victory in yesterday's primary election. I'm wishing you much success in November and beyond as you work to bring New Yorkers together to tackle the city's challenges and shape a stronger. So there you go. I mean, that you don't get more establishment than Bill Clinton. And he is abandoning Andrew Cuomo, abandoning the incumbent Eric Adams, and coalescing around the communist.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton, look, Bill Clinton is just so happy he managed to avoid any kind of mess with the Me Too movement and the, believe all women. I mean, I'm amazed he managed to avoid any kind of messy complications because of that. So Bill Clinton, he is like, I'm retired. I just congratulate whoever they tell me to congratulate. He's not here to make waves. It is significant, though.
I think there is an angle here, though, in terms of Bill Clinton's dating life. I mean, he endorsed Cuomo knowing Cuomo's activities that drummed him out of the governor's office, thinking, all right, if I endorse Cuomo, I'm going to get some babes on the side. But then he saw the victory party, which for Mamdani, it was full of like 23-year-old white college grads who don't know anything about
women
socialism.
Who do not shave. Okay, so I think you need to.
Can he be
not
that
that it
picky?
matters to Bill, but
exactly. Thank you. Meanwhile, the fascinating thing about this race, we had Curtis Sliwa on yesterday. He's the Republican. But watch Eric Adams. Let's not forget, he's literally the mayor of New York right now. And he's actually had some success in bringing crime down by actually cooperating with Trump and getting ICE deportations. Where did he show up yesterday? He went to Fox News. Wow. He went to Fox News and listened to what he had to say.
Mr. Mayor, it's not just defund the police, this candidate, Democratic Socialist. He wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for child care, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
He's a snake oil salesman. Mm-hmm. He will say and do anything to get elected. Think about this for a moment. He wants to raise 1%. He wants to raise tax on 1% of New Yorkers' high-income earners. As the mayor, you don't have the authority to do that. You know who has the authority to do that? An assemblyman, which he is. He wants to do free buses. He could have done it at assemblyman. He doesn't understand the power of government and how you must making sure you improve your economy, raise the standard of living, and this is what we've done in the city. And I'm looking forward to
this is a great argument. Basically, what he's saying is he says he's going to do all this as mayor. I'm the mayor. I know you can't. You don't have the power to do those things. But you could have up in Albany as a state. You never did. You never tried.
Interesting.
But now you say, as our mayor, you're going to do it? It's actually a very strong argument.
It is. And I will say personally, I hope he tries to do all of these things. I honestly, it's terrible. I love New York. I love going to New York. I won't be going to New York if this guy wins for a long time. But, he says, I want this to be the model of democratic city. Fine. God bless. Because you're going to, it is. We'll never lose after this.
You'll have New York on the East Coast as the model, and you'll have the entire state of California on the West Coast as the model, and it'll try to squeeze everyone in the middle. Let me tell you something. As I say, watch what the establishment Democrats do here. Watch one other thing. Watch Donald Trump. Everyone assumes he's going to endorse Curtis Sliwa. He might. But what happens if Donald Trump endorses Eric Adams?
Eric Adams, right.
What happens then? Keep an eye on it. 7:54.